Real quick before we go, I want to run down a bunch of games that people might like if they like Death Stranding and are looking forward to Death Stranding 2. Again, those are really weird games. So maybe, I don't know why you would like them. I don't know what you do like about them, or if you don't like them, or I don't know if you're there to deliver the mail or build the bridges or shoot the ghost or pee in a blood grenade or like whatever you like. There's a lot of weird stuff you do in those. Maybe you're just there for the cutscenes. I don't know why everyone likes things for different reasons. And there's a lot of reasons to like and or dislike those games. But I did my best to sort of compile a list of recommendations of other games that kind of hit similar beats. And I figured, why not? Days Gone. I feel like this is a sort of obvious one. It's another PlayStation exclusive.
So I haven't seen this list yet. I'm excited to see what this goes. Days Gone.
On a show, I share you with it every week.
No. I didn't want to look at this. I wanted to be surprised.
I realized that I crap all over Days Gone because it's got this this like rugged dude bro protagonist who's in like a trucker cap and he's like, yeah, man, I'm gonna ride my hog all over the place. And it's like, oh man, and then I jump into Death Stranding and I'm just this like Norman Reedus in a trucker cap and I'm like, all right, time to get on my tricycle motorcycle and take my baby to the mailroom or whatever. Like
Norman Reedus, who's like most famous from playing a motorcycle guy.
Exactly, yeah. So it's similar parallels there. I think this is definitely a more conventional, accessible video game, but it does remind me that like sometimes getting around on that motorcycle is like a pain in the ass. Like you run out of fuel, or you're like, oh, I gotta get this up a weird hill or something, and it's I don't know. There's an obvious parallel there. Speaking of post-apocalyptic open world games where you have to babysit your vehicle, there's also Mad Max, which I think is often slept on. That was I think Avalanche did that.
Yeah.
It got did dirty. It was, I think that came out like alongside Fallout 4, maybe.
It was one of those like when a movie you love goes up against like 5 blockbusters and dies.
Yeah.
Right.
It also, had the odd problem of being sort of in the wake of Fury Road or right before Fury Road. And Fury Road is like such an, unparalleled action movie. And this was good. This is competent. Like it's cool, but it's also not exactly in that same movie universe. Something that hit me is that, George Miller is in Death Stranding too. Like Kojima obviously loves the dude. They just did a whole panel together in Australia. And it kind of clicked to me that like, this is George Miller's vision of an Australian post-apocalypse is so legitimately unique. Like it is its own thing. He has his own bizarre sensibilities. It is so completely out there that it borders on fantasy at times. You've got like, Beautiful. I keep forgetting that Beautiful Joe or Odorous Urungus. Those are the wrong names. Immortan Joe. Those, you get these weird, barbarians of the wasteland.
Beautiful Joe.
Beautiful Joe.
I wish we got a Beautiful Joe movie. Me and no one else.
I wish Beautiful Joe was just in Mad Max. But anyway, no, it's these kind of bizarre, larger than life characters. They're and it's not really a hard sci-fi post-apocalypse. It's been aped to death, like Fallout, cribs from it a ton. It's almost become this sort of, you've got the leather jackets and muscle cars in the post-apocalypse. It's such a, prototype of post-apocalyptic fiction that people borrow from it, whether they realize it or not. But George Miller's whole vision is so out there. And I feel like Death Stranding is in a similar place where it's got these trappings that don't entirely make sense under scrutiny. Like in the same way that wearing S&M gear in the Australian outback, probably not the most smart thing to do, not really a good tactical setup there. And at the same time, you've got people in these bunkers with holographic avatars who come out and say, oh, thanks for delivering the mail. I couldn't use the internet before you put your necklace on a thing to connect me to a chiral network. But you've got holograms. How did you communicate? There's just it. Again, it's a fictional universe in the service of game mechanics. But if you think about it too hard, you're kind of like, this is kind of weird. Why is Conan O'Brien ordering cosplay supplies from me? I don't get it. But it's in a similar, it is aesthetics and, game design kind of at the forefront. And I feel like there's an interesting parallel between Death Stranding and Mad Max in that sense.
Yes.
Finally,
also just play this game because it's really good. You should play it.
It's a cool game. Yeah. Finally, in the sort of post-apocalyptic, or at very least, dystopian wasteland, Pacific Drive is another kind of car game where it's a procedurally generated survival game where you're driving a station wagon through this kind of. It's like if the I feel like the exclusion zone from Stalker was in the Pacific Northwest, so it's kind of Lynchian, but it's also got some, bizarro creatures and weird weather anomalies. And the whole thing is you've got to manage your car, and it's not a cool car. It's a station wagon, which I feel like is kind of similar to being like, all right, I'm heading out in the apocalypse. Got to deliver the mail. Like there's something wonderfully, it's a cool sort of power fantasy, but it's coupled with a really almost routine obligation. In this case, you've got your various missions and things, but I appreciate the commitment to station wagon repair that this game does that not a lot of games do.
Agreed.
Now, something I've gotten into it since I played the first Death Stranding is those European truck games, which I think people who like Death Stranding would really genuinely enjoy. The first one that I touched was Snowrunner, which is about driving trucks in the snow and the mud, and you have to deal with fuel. Like you have to manage your if you run out of gas, you're screwed, and you have to pay money to get a guy to come pull you out of the mud and give you fuel or whatever. And it's very similar to Death Stranding in that it's like your obligation here is to deliver things or go run errands. Like you're doing very point A to point B to point C tasks, but the gameplay is in getting there. And it's a very it's very grounded, sometimes to a fault when you were stuck in the ground, but the physics of it are really cool.
Yeah, this is like I was talking about this before. This is immediate parallel to me to Death Stranding. And if you like those games, play this game.
Yeah, highly recommend it. SnowRunner's good. The more recent one is Mudrunner Expeditions, which is similar systems, but this one I feel like took a little bit more of a video gamey approach, and you get sent to these. The whole thing is you're going and exploring, you're finding various treasures, you're going up mountains, and it's same deal, different environments, and I feel like a slightly wider variety of vehicles out the gate. And again, you're basically just off-roading. You're driving like weird trucks in mud. The mud physics in this game are ridiculous. You also have like a set number of vehicles at your disposal, and occasionally you'll have to do something like, oh, I got to go pull a truck out of the mud. I got to go rescue this other truck. And then there's also like I would say almost a QWOP-like amount of failure that comes with this, where at one point I was trying to pull a truck out of the mud, and I got my truck stuck in the mud. And so I went and got in a different truck and went to pull that truck out of the mud. And then that truck got stuck in the mud. And so I had to reload my save file because I just got too many trucks in the mud. Again, Mudrunner Expeditions. It's in the name. The most recent one,
which connected
this team has done, is called Roadcraft, which I think would really, really, really gel with Death Stranding people, because it's got that traversal challenge, but it's also about building stuff. It's also about building bridges and repairing roads, and it's extremely tactile, which I think is really cool. One thing about Death Stranding that I don't particularly love is I feel like a lot of the coolest stuff happens in the form of a little cutscene. So like when you build a bridge, you kind of place it and then you press a button and then the bridge shows up. Or if you're, bringing resources, those take the form of like various boxes and crates and things that you have on your person or on your vehicle or what have you. But they're boxes with numbers attached to them. If you're trying to like rebuild something, you just need this number of whatever resources that is. In this case, there's a much more like, oh, you need 3 pieces of concrete. Okay, you have to pick those up individually with a crane, load them onto your truck. Oh, you need some pylons. You got to load those up too. And if you don't strap them down, they are going to fall off of your truck. In Death Stranding, stuff falls off of you, but it's like, I feel like it's a lot more gamified. And in this case, it's pretty much, it's actually hilariously brutal in a similar fashion to losing my trucks in the mud. I was doing one where I had to put, you'll build routes for automated like AI controlled trucks to go on to like help shuttle things around, and they'll be actually in the world. It's not like something that's happening in a spreadsheet in a menu somewhere. There are these trucks that just drive through the world on their own, and if there's something in the road, they get stuck or what have you. I took my truck, my crane, and my other little truck, and I went and I had to go get a bunch of materials, and I very carefully loaded them up. And I got them all the way into the truck. And then right as I was about to get in my delivery, my cargo truck, and go driving, one of these AI trucks just plowed through and hit my truck. And all of my crap that I'd spent like 15 minutes carefully loading in with a crane manually just fell over, and my truck was flipped over. And then I tried to pick it up with my crane, and then the crane fell over. Like, it's slapstick. And it's fascinating because all of the little systems and mechanics are like, they're there. They're things that are represented. Very little here is just in the form of pushing buttons and having to use your imagination about it happening. Like there's a very lovely kind of literal representation of things. Things actually get simulated, but yeah, it's also shockingly polished. Like there's really cool physics in the mud and the snow, and the trucks are all very detailed. But yeah, highly recommend it. If you want something much dumber about delivering things, there's also Deliver at All Costs, which I realize was published by Konami, and I can't help but feel like it's sort of throwing shade at Death Stranding. You played a bunch of this, didn't you, Brian?
I really like this game. The story gets a little too talky, but again, if you like Death Stranding, then that's right up your alley. But it's got this sort of like really fun sandbox destruction physics element to it, where everywhere you go, you can just full on plow through buildings, and cops chase you around and stuff like that. But yeah, you fill up a truck with watermelons, and one of the missions is basically get as many of them to this building as you can. There was one mission I did where like you're delivering rotten fruit, and you have to show up to a guy who like paints it to look fresh. So it's just like slapstick, stupid criminal stuff. But every time you take a turn or move too quickly or run into a pedestrian, some of the stuff in your cargo payload will go flying out. Like this mission you're looking at here, the character is delivering fireworks, and the fireworks are just exploding the whole time, and you're trying to get as many of them as you can to you're trying to get to where you need to go without the cops stopping you, or destroying everything. But it's less punishing about losing stuff and falling down, and more playful in terms of just like full on letting you destroy things.
It's very silly.
You got police chasing you, which is great.
You've got to deliver like a big fish, like a marlin or something,
mm-hmm.
and it's alive, but it's in the back of a pickup truck, and it's bigger than your truck, and it keeps getting hungry, and so you have to keep driving into piles of dead fish that are at like random fish markets to feed it so that it calms down. Not getting it in water, you just got to feed it more. It's really just a very silly game. So that one's fun. Again, not like Death Stranding, but also kind of like Death Stranding. If you want something a little more somber that again has similar delivery vibes, Lake is a really cool game. That's kind of wonderful, like little indie game about a woman who has to go back to her hometown. I forget what's going on. I think she like maybe gets laid off or maybe quits her job or something, and then she decides to just work as the mail carrier, and so she's just zipping around this little hometown and just bringing stuff to people, and it's extremely chill. There are no mud ghosts or like tentacled like large cats coming out of the ground. You don't have a baby that's screaming. There are no dudes in yellow jumpsuits trying to steal your mail. It's much more about just being a regular person who delivers the mail. But it's very, very pleasant, very pretty. And if you enjoy the part of Death Stranding where you take people's stuff in the truck, there you go. There's one. If you like the sci-fi aspects of delivering things and would like to do more of that in a cyberpunk futuristic city, there is, of course, Cloudpunk. That's another one that people seem to really be into, which is, again, it's like a little third-person view. It's much more sort of pulled back, like you're controlling I think you're doing delivery work, but it's, again, big old, cyberpunk city. Looks like Blade Runner, but it's kind of Crazy Taxi adjacent, but you're doing, and there is a story there, but it's going from point A to point B. Like it's not a game where you're running around shooting stuff. It's kind of more about like just the basic traversal, which I realize some people don't like that. Some people do. Clearly enough people like it that, they latched on it with Death Stranding, and there's lots of other games like that. Another game that was notable for its weird approach to exploration was Outer Wilds, which I don't think is exactly Death Stranding like, but it's more, it doesn't sugarcoat getting around. Like it's got a whole time loop. Did you play much of this?
I did play a bit of this, and I think that like one of the parallels is that it encourages problem solving in sort of weird, unique, and interesting ways. And it's not necessarily a puzzle game, just like Death Stranding isn't, but Death Stranding has a lot of like, how am I supposed to get from point A to point B? What do I have at my disposal that will allow me to do that? And how do I get clever with those tools? And this game encourages a lot of that as well. So yeah, definitely some parallels there.
Yeah. I also love that it makes just a royal challenge of just landing a spaceship. And, it's these things that that have almost become mundane in video games, but they should be weird and complicated. And The thing I never liked about this is the spaceship is made of wood, which I take umbrage with that. It doesn't make any sense. Unlike Death Stranding, which, is very sound, very logically sound.
Yeah, sure.
Another one, if you like the challenge of traversal, of just getting over things, there's Jusant, which is a rock climbing game, which really chill, really gorgeous. Just has you just.
I dug this one.
Yeah, it kind of feels like Breath of the Wild climbing, but you don't plummet to your death if you didn't eat enough, pumpkin stew before going up the side of a mountain. Like it's neat, and it's sort of vaguely fantasy. Like it's definitely not like a it's not like the tech bros who go rock climbing at Yosemite or whatever. Like it's a strange alien place to do rock stuff. So into that. And this isn't out yet, but worth keeping an eye on. We've made this association before, but Baby Steps is a big one. That's kind of looks like, again, throwing a little bit of shade at Death Stranding. It is actually from Bennett Foddy, who's the guy who gave us Quap, the difficult game about moving. Just makes it hard to move. And in this one, you are a guy who's in his pajamas and he's just walking around doing his best to not fall over and get his pajamas all dirty. I'm actually really excited to play this game. It looks
Me too.
Dumb as hell, and I'm into it. And finally, this doesn't have a whole lot to do with Death Stranding, but I feel like Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, has some parallels there. You got this baby. Okay. You got to carry this baby around, and the baby will start crying if something attacks you, and you got to get the baby to calm it down, or otherwise this supernatural entity will swoop in and take it away. What do you do to defend yourself? I don't know. Use your own bodily functions. Yoshi eats the things, and they turn into eggs, and he shoots the eggs at things. Sam Porter Bridges, he goes to the bathroom, and it makes grenades out of his business. So I'm just saying, it's a similar thing,
They're basically the same game.
Pretty much the same game. Yoshi's Island and Death Stranding, they're the same game.
That's what it says on the box. It says basically the same game, IGN.
Yeah, it's true. Anyway, so yeah, those are a handful of games that are Death Stranding adjacent. But again, Death Stranding is a weird game that's not really like a whole lot else. So I'm curious what other people would point to or suggest. Hey, thanks for watching this clip from Beyond, IGN's weekly PlayStation show. You can find the full episode over on youtube.com/IGN Games. And don't forget, new episodes of Beyond drop every Wednesday on IGN.com, the IGN Games YouTube, and all your favorite podcast platforms. Thanks again for watching, and as always, Beyond.